Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. We've talked a lot about Ahsoka and her relationship with Sabine. We've also talked a lot about Baylan Skoll and his relationship with Shin Hati. But what about these two masters? What do they share in common? They seem so different at first glance. As different as Ashla is to Bogan, but then again, considering galactic events in the last few decades,
There's so few Jedi left.
and so Ahsoka and Baylan do have something in common. There are not many former Jedi survivors left in the galaxy, and how many of those survivors actually have apprentices left, and not just any normal apprentice, but ones they've picked up in the wild. The similarities don't end there. I mean, despite their differing views on a certain blue alien Grand Admiral, both Ahsoka Tano and Baylan Skoll owe the Jedi Order quite a lot. They were both taken from a young age from their families and raised in the Jedi Order. Well, actually, we don't know the particulars of Baylan Skoll's story, but the first years of a Jedi youngling's life is so standardized that had Baylan Skoll's journey been at all different from Ahsoka's, we probably would have heard about it already. Baylan Skoll loves doing story time. I mean, only Anakin Skywalker was accepted at a later age for Jedi training, and he was the chosen one. He had midichlorian levels that went off the charts. And so at their core, Ahsoka Tano and Baylan Skoll are Jedi. Yes, they'll say otherwise. They've rejected the teachings of the Jedi. They generally don't have very good opinions about the Jedi, it seems. But you can't deny that they've clearly been shaped by this organization. For Ahsoka, it was a decade and a half of her life. For Baylan Skoll, maybe a little bit more. He was probably around Anakin's age when the Order fell.
When I was a bit older than you are now, I watched everything I knew burn.
A lot of people try to run away from their past, especially if their past was terrible. The thing is, the communities that we surround ourselves with when we're young, they have a lasting impact on who we are when we grow older. You know, whether you're a religious person who've become secular or vice versa, or you're a person who moved from a city to the countryside or vice versa, whether you've moved from rock to opera or vice versa. You can hate your past life and community so much that it is your identity, but there will always be signs of that community which shaped you in those very formative years of your life. And so it's very clear when you look at someone like Ahsoka that she is a Jedi. I oftentimes mistakenly call her that, and that's because I get the general sense if my car ever breaks down, or if I have a jar that I can't open because I'm not strong enough, I can probably call her and rely on her to do it for me. Although that isn't technically what the Jedi is about all the time. Service to others, especially the innocent and the helpless and those lacking grip strength, is one of the purest things a Jedi can do. And so whether it's Ahsoka helping the Martinez sisters simply because she can, or Ahsoka saving those stupid farmers who called the Inquisitor on her, or Ahsoka aiding the New Republic in this crazy journey to another galaxy.
Don't you want to take us as prisoners? As prisoners? Huh? Or
Fire!
It's clear that she can't really escape her Jedi past. And for Baylan Skoll, well, he seems to hold on to this concept of honor still. When he convinces Sabine Wren to drop that star map she was threatening to destroy, Sabine really had no other bargaining chips. She was completely at his mercy.
Come with me. Willingly. I give you my word. No harm will come to you. Sabine.
He could have let his apprentice choke her to death, or he could have done it himself, but for the sake of honor, most likely, he decided to keep his end of the bargain and give her a chance to reconnect with Ezra Bridger before he tries to kill her. Baylan Skoll is also an individual who seems to dislike violence. He doesn't want to kill people, even though he's placed in situations where he does murder a lot of innocent individuals. He always tries to use the diplomatic route first, just like a Jedi would.
It's quite a surprise meeting Jedi out here.
Our existence remains a mystery to most, Captain Hale.
He's also very reluctant to fight Ahsoka Tano on numerous occasions.
How inevitable. It didn't need to come to this. You can't defeat me.
That last line is almost Obi-Wan Kenobi-like.
it's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
A part of me actually wonders, maybe Baylan brought Sabine Wren to Thrawn because he actually did find her useful. Maybe it's because somewhere deep down he hoped or he knew that Ahsoka survived that fall and was now trying to follow Sabine Wren to this galaxy. Maybe he needs her, to confront this hidden power he's seeking on the world of Peridia, this new beginning he wants to bring to the galaxy. He definitely wasn't angry, just a bit surprised when he saw Ahsoka return from the dead. And that brings me to their next similarity, and it's something that they both share but express in different ways. Both of them miss the Jedi Order. Baylan Skoll clearly can't keep his mind off of it. Half of his conversations with his apprentice Shinhati are about that period in his life.
Do you miss it? The Order?
I miss the idea of it.
He also has to follow up every one of these stories with a reminder that the Jedi are also weak and terrible. I don't know if he's doing that for Shinhati's benefit or to convince himself. Ahsoka in her own way misses the Jedi Order as well, but it's not through her words that we find this out. Instead, it's the company she keeps. There's a reason why her companion droid is Professor Huyang. He's not just any droid, but he's the droid with all the Jedi protocols and regulations stored within his head.
If you didn't keep at such a safe distance, maybe we wouldn't have lost communication.
I am just following standard Jedi mission protocol.
Yang, the Order doesn't exist anymore.
It's odd that Ahsoka would keep him as company, considering it was those same inflexible rules that got her kicked out of the Order in the first place. And then, of course, there are those holocrons of Anakin Skywalker. Clearly, these are things he views a lot. She uses them for strength.
I know you can do this, Ahsoka.
It's Anakin who appeared to Ahsoka in the World Between Worlds and saved her life. It's Anakin's training, his Jedi training, that continues to keep Ahsoka alive. So both of these individuals are no longer Jedi. They've put that part of their lives behind them. But it's clear at every turn, at every intersection, their Jedi past still shadows them. It even drives their actions, and this is why even though they're so different, they can't help but keep on bumping into one another. I think both individuals would be lying if they said there was no nostalgia seeing another former member of the Jedi Order in person alive. The other interesting similarity that both of these powerful Force users share is that despite their separation from the Jedi Order, they still carry on the tradition of taking on an apprentice. Which is an interesting move because when you take an apprentice, the assumption is you have something worth teaching them, right? But without the Jedi Order and all of the rules and regulations and tradition, Ahsoka and Baylan Skoll have to come up with their own teachings. And it's through these teachings we kind of see how their ideologies have changed since they were in the Jedi Order.
I don't need Sabine to be a Jedi. I need her to be herself.
No. He was trained as a Jedi. You, I trained to be something more.
And so both of these masters just seem to be giving the usual Force training to their apprentices, except for constant reminders that their Padawans are not Jedi. Shinhati is clearly well trained with the lightsaber and has a good connection to the Force, and Ahsoka Tano has probably one of the sickest dojo setups I've ever seen on her Jedi shuttle. So a lot of this training focuses on the basics, on the combat, on connecting properly to the Force, and there's just a lot less ideology, a lot less bigger picture stuff. And it seems like both of these former Jedi don't really talk about the usual Jedi hang-ups, like not having attachments. It's clear that Sabine never got that talk from Ahsoka because she hardly hesitated to give the star map to Baylan Skoll, at which point, how did Thrawn put it?
You've gambled the fate of your galaxy on that belief.
That's like my favorite Thrawn live-action line so far. But anyway, the first time Ahsoka sees Sabine again on Peridia, not only does she rush into action and save her, when the fighting dies down, this is her reaction to her.
Ahsoka.
Auntie Ahsoka is so valid. She doesn't scold Sabine. She doesn't even sigh in a bothered way. She just simply smiles, as if she's not just happy, but almost proud to see her again. I mean, there is a big part of me that still thinks Sabine's an idiot for doing what she did. But then again, if I were in her situation, I'm not sure I would have done anything differently. You know, love first and figure out the solution to the massive problem you've just created. It's all heart it's all optimism. And I think Ahsoka, being who she is, seeing who Anakin was, is going to be much more forgiving and less worried about Sabine's attachments to other people or her emotions. If anything, she just seems genuinely happy to see Ezra Bridger, and she's enjoying this moment with her friends, with her family, I guess you could say. And I think this makes me on a personal level like Ahsoka a lot more. I'm sure some of you will disagree and think that she needs to be a bit harder on Sabine, and I think that is also a valid conversation to have. But then again, Sabine Wren is pretty weak in the Force. It's not like she's gonna fall to the dark side, start shooting lightning out of her fingers, eat babies. Although the Mandalorian side, you know. And so I guess that's the key difference in how Ahsoka's ideology progressed after she left the Jedi. She came to understand that love and passion can lead to great tragedy, but also great moments like this.
I thought you were dead. And missed this reunion?
It's not to say that Ahsoka won't try to limit her own passions. She was, after all, trained in the Jedi Order, but if she sees those passions in other people, she won't try to restrict them. She won't be overbearing. And I think this is really progress for the Jedi Order, or what's left of them. I mean, it's a crazy world out there. Ahsoka's seen a lot, and, you know, she's dealing with politics, massive struggles between good and evil, dark side and light side on a daily basis. And oftentimes, even when she does the right thing, the outcome might be terrible. And so I get why she's like this. I mean, it's never wrong to be happy to see your friends and your loved ones. They give us strength and power. And if the Jedi hugged each other more, well, they probably never would have been such a dick to Anakin for, you know, missing his mom as a 10-year-old.
Your thoughts dwell on your mother.
I miss her.
Afraid to lose her, I think.
What does that got to do with anything?
Everything.
Not one of those individuals in that room is normal. Anakin is the only normal person in that room, and it's because he got hugged by his mom when he was a kid. It's all you really need sometimes. And Anakin taught Ahsoka to also not fear emotions like the Jedi did. He taught her to embrace her humanity, her Togruta-anity. And he did this all by example. Anakin might have had a lot of flaws, but he always had Ahsoka's back, no matter what. For Baylan Skoll, the thing he learned from Order 66 and the Fall of the Jedi was that they were weak and unable to do what was necessary to survive. It's not that Baylan Skoll is wrong because he's a different view from Ahsoka, it's just what he learned from his experiences. We're all just shaped by our experiences in life. Baylan saw the Jedi as being unable to see the larger picture. He came to a realization that in order to create peace and stability, sometimes you have to crack a few eggs and, you know, murder some people. That's what happened in the opening scene of the show. Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati probably didn't relish the idea of killing all those new Republic troopers. Well, maybe Shin did a little bit. But Baylan clearly, as we pointed out before, is not a bloodthirsty murderer, as that he's focused on something greater, this new beginning on Peridia. And he will stretch his own ideology and values to get there. And so, in a lot of ways, Baylan Skoll is just as flexible as Ahsoka has become. They've both learned to walk away from the dogmatic ways of the Jedi Order. In a lot of ways, this reminds me of like really devoutly religious people who have a lot of, dietary restrictions and prayers that they have to do and other things that are very specialized and can be found in smaller, specialized religious communities. But when these individuals move outside of their community, but they maintain those same beliefs, it becomes harder and harder for them to basically service all of those requirements, and soon they begin to change their ways. Maybe they're a bit more flexible, just like Ahsoka and Baylan become. And that's something that unites both Ahsoka and Baylan. They were both forced to survive. To continue living without the Jedi Order, they had to modify their belief systems and learn from their training and evolve. But they never really gave up on a lot of the core tenets of what they felt was important with the Jedi Order. And even though both Ahsoka and Baylan are strictly against the Jedi Order now, they never chose to leave. They got kicked out first. Had the Jedi Temple bombing never happened to Ahsoka, I'm pretty sure she would have stayed right next to Sky Guy until Order 66. And had Baylan Skoll not been forced to go through Order 66 as well, he would have been that same stoic and stiff-backed and imposing paladin that he is now, except for the Jedi Order. It was fate that pushed them out of their homes. And they still yearn the Order in some ways, especially Baylan Skoll, who I think is a bit less capable of dealing with the trauma that he went through. You know, for Baylan Skoll, Order 66 was a world-shattering moment. For Ahsoka, Order 66 was probably just like a top 5 or top 10 most messed up things she's witnessed. Remember, she's died once already and almost died at least 2 other times. Nothing really phases her out anymore. You know, there's definitely a part of me that would love to see Baylan Skoll and Ahsoka Tano sit down, you know, grab a calf or something like that and just talk Jedi philosophy, talk what they've learned, how they've changed since Order 66. I would love to hear them rag on their annoying teenage-like Padawans with their dyed hair and moody outbursts. I actually think there's a world where they both could have been, I don't know, friends, but colleagues, acquaintances, fellow grayish Jedi. Clearly, Baylan enjoys talking to Ahsoka. And so I wonder, as the finale gets closer, what will happen to these 2 individuals who went through so many similar things and eventually came up with their own different yet similar interpretations of what they think the Jedi should be. Whatever happens a few hours from now when the show actually airs, I hope they are together at the end. As Baylan says, there's so few Jedi left.